Imagine you are given a beautiful house. Large, comfortable, fully furnished. And your only job is to live in it and enjoy it. No responsibility. No maintenance. No duty whatsoever. Sounds amazing, right? But think, will that house stay beautiful forever if nobody takes care of it? That was exactly the situation with India's constitution from 1950 to 1976. Our constitution was powerful, it gave fundamental rights, it gave directive principles. But one thing was missing. The duties of the citizens. The original constitution only talked about what the state must do through DPSPs. What the citizen must do. Nothing mentioned. Then came 1976. The emergency period. And suddenly it was realized people are demanding rights but forgetting responsibilities. And so a new part was born, Part IVA. A new article was added, Article 51A. And fundamental duties entered the Constitution. This is Chapter 9, Fundamental Duties. A short chapter. But extremely important for both UPSC Prelims and Mains. So let us begin, and by the end of this lecture, you will know every single thing UPSC can ever ask from this chapter. Origin and background. The very first question, where did fundamental duties come from? Laxmikanth tells us clearly, fundamental duties are inspired by the constitution of the erstwhile USSR. The Soviet Union was a socialist country that gave equal importance to both the rights and duties of its citizens. The USSR constitution declared that the exercise of rights and freedoms by citizens was inseparable from their duties and obligations. Now think about this interesting pattern. DPSPs came from Ireland, fundamental rights drew inspiration from America, and fundamental duties came from the USSR. India truly borrowed the best ideas from around the world. Here is a very important fact for prelims. Major democratic countries like USA, Canada, France, Germany, and Australia do not have a specific list of citizen duties in their constitutions. Japan is the only major democratic constitution in the world that contains a list of duties of citizens. Remember Japan as the exception. Now coming to India's story. It was added through 42nd Amendment Act 1976 in Indian Constitution. This amendment added a new part, Part IVA, and Article 51A. And when was this added? During the emergency between 1975 and 1977. The Indira Gandhi government accepted the recommendations of the Swaran Committee and enacted the 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act in 1976. Now here is a critical exam trap. The Swaran Committee recommended 8 fundamental duties. But the 42nd Amendment Act included 10. The committee's 2 recommendations, duty to pay taxes and penalty for non-compliance, were not accepted and were not incorporated in the Constitution. Then in 2002, the 86th Constitutional Amendment Act added one more duty, making the total 11 fundamental duties. Swaran Committee. Swaran Singh was the chairman. The members included A.R. Antillery, C.M. Stephen, S.S. Ray, D.P. Singh, Rajni Patel, V.N. Gadgil, H.R. Gokhale, B.N. Banerjee, V.S. Syed Muhammad, Dinesh Gao, and V.N. Gadgil. The Congress party set up this committee in 1976 during the emergency period. The purpose was to examine whether fundamental duties should be added to the Constitution, and if yes, which duties. The committee recommended 8 duties. But the 42nd Amendment Act added 10 duties. So 2 additional duties were added beyond the committee's recommendation. And critically, the committee also recommended that Parliament may provide for the imposition of penalty or punishment for non-compliance with duties. And it recommended that duty to pay taxes should be a fundamental duty. Both of these recommendations were not accepted and were not incorporated in the Constitution. This distinction, what was recommended versus what was accepted, is a very commonly tested prelims fact. All 11 fundamental duties. Now let us go through all 11 fundamental duties, one by one, in teacher-style detail. Duty A, Article 51A. To abide by the Constitution and respect its ideals and institutions, the national flag and the national anthem. This is your most basic constitutional commitment. Respect the document that gave you rights, respect the flag that represents your nation, respect the anthem that unites you. Duty B, Article 51A(b). To cherish and follow the noble ideals that inspired the national struggle for freedom. My handwritten notes say, to cherish and follow the noble ideas which inspired our national struggle for freedom. Think of Bhagat Singh, Mahatma Gandhi, Subhash Chandra Bose. Their sacrifices and ideals must live on through every citizen. Duty C, Article 51A(c). To uphold and protect the sovereignty, unity and integrity of India. Notes say, to protect sovereignty, unity and integrity of India. This duty is the constitutional wall against separatism, communalism and anything that divides the nation. Duty D, Article 51A(d). To defend the country and render national service when called upon to do so. Notes say simply, to defend the country. Whether in war or in national service missions, when India calls, every citizen must answer. Duty E. Article 51A(e). To promote harmony and the spirit of common brotherhood amongst all the people of India transcending religious, linguistic, regional or sectional diversities, and to renounce practices derogatory to the dignity of women. Notes say, to promote spirit of common brotherhood amongst all people of India. This is a dual duty, unity and women's dignity together in one clause. Duty F. Article 51A(f). To value and preserve the rich heritage of the country's composite culture. Notes say, to preserve rich heritage of our composite culture. India's art, music, languages, traditions, classical knowledge, every citizen must protect this priceless inheritance. Duty G. Article 51A(g). To protect and improve the natural environment including forests, lakes, rivers and wildlife and to have compassion for living creatures. Notes say, to protect and improve natural environment. This is the constitutional foundation for every environmental protection law in India. Duty H. Article 51A(h). To develop scientific temper, humanism, and the spirit of inquiry and reform. This is very important. My handwritten notes have written new idea next to this duty. It is a forward-looking, progressive duty. It tells citizens, do not follow blind faith, embrace science, question, reform, think rationally. Duty I. Article 51A(i). To safeguard public property and to abjure violence. Notes say, to safeguard public property. Government buildings, roads, parks, monuments, they belong to every citizen. Destroying them is a constitutional violation. Duty J. Article 51A(j). To strive towards excellence in all spheres of individual and collective activity so that the nation constantly rises to higher levels of endeavor and achievement. Notes say, to strive towards excellence in all spheres of individual and collective activity. This duty pushes every Indian to be their best, individually and collectively. Duty K. Article 51A(k). And finally, the 11th duty added much later by the 86th Constitutional Amendment Act, 2002. My handwritten notes state, Art 51A(k), who has a guardian to provide opportunity for education to his child, as the case may be, ward between 6 to 14 years, 86th Amendment Act 2002. So if you are a parent or a guardian, providing your child between 6 and 14 years of age with educational opportunities is your constitutional duty. This duty was added alongside Article 21A, the right to education, making education both a right of the child and a duty of the parent. Features of fundamental duties. Now let us lock down the features of fundamental duties. These come directly in prelims. Feature 1. Moral and civic duties both. Some duties are moral in nature, like cherishing the noble ideals of the freedom struggle. This is an internal feeling, no court can measure it or enforce it directly. Other duties are civic in nature, like respecting the Constitution, the national flag, and the national anthem. These are concrete, observable actions. Fundamental duties contain both types. Feature 2. Rooted in Indian tradition. These duties are not alien political concepts. They are a codification of values that have been part of Indian tradition, mythology, religions, and cultural practices for centuries. They essentially represent the Indian way of life translated into constitutional language. Feature 3. Citizens only, critical exam trap. My handwritten notes clearly state, FD cannot be enforced by courts. They are not enforceable in any court. They are moral obligation of all citizens to help, promote a spirit of patriotism and to uphold the unity of India. Now here is the most important distinction for the exam: fundamental rights guaranteed by Articles 14, 20, 21, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, and 28 are available to all persons, both citizens and foreigners. But fundamental duties under Article 51 apply to citizens only. Foreigners have no fundamental duties under the Indian Constitution. Feature 4. Non-justiciable. Just like DPSPs, no court can directly enforce fundamental duties. The Constitution does not provide for their direct enforcement by courts. There is no legal sanction against their violation. Feature 5. Parliament can enforce. However, non-justiciable does not mean completely unenforceable. Parliament is free to enforce fundamental duties by passing suitable legislation. Parliament may impose appropriate penalty or punishment for failure to fulfill any of them. Feature 6. Courts use them to validate laws. In 1992, the Supreme Court ruled that in determining the constitutionality of any law, if a court finds that the law in question seeks to give effect to a fundamental duty, it may consider such law to be reasonable in relation to Article 14 or Article 19. This means fundamental duties can indirectly save laws from being declared unconstitutional, a very powerful indirect role. Criticism of fundamental duties. Every great constitutional provision faces criticism. Let us understand what critics have said about fundamental duties, because UPSC mains sometimes asks for a critical analysis. Criticism 1. The list is not exhaustive. Critics point out that many important duties are simply missing from the list. The duty to vote in elections, not listed. The duty to pay taxes, Swaran Singh committee recommended it but it was not accepted. Family planning, not listed. These omissions make the list incomplete and selective. Criticism 2. Vague and ambiguous language. The textbook clearly mentions this criticism. Phrases like noble ideals of freedom struggle, composite culture, and scientific temper are open to multiple interpretations. Different people can interpret them differently. A common citizen may struggle to understand exactly what these phrases demand of them. This vagueness reduces their practical value. Criticism 3. Mere code of moral precepts. Because of their non-justiciable nature, critics have described fundamental duties as nothing more than a code of moral precepts, moral sayings with no legal teeth. If there is no enforcement mechanism, what is the real value? Criticism 4. Superfluous inclusion. This is a very interesting criticism. Critics argued that the duties included in the Constitution as fundamental duties would have been performed by the people even without their constitutional incorporation. People already respected the flag, already preserved culture, already protected the environment, so codifying these as constitutional duties is unnecessary or superfluous. Criticism 5. Wrong placement in the Constitution. This is perhaps the most valid criticism. Critics argued that fundamental duties should have been placed after Part 3, that is, alongside fundamental rights, to give them equal standing and importance. Instead, they were placed in Part IVA, after even the DPSPs, which significantly reduced their perceived value and significance. Their appendage-like placement has weakened their constitutional weight. Significance of fundamental duties. Despite all the criticisms, fundamental duties have genuine and lasting significance. Point 1. A constant reminder. Fundamental duties serve as a constant reminder to every citizen that while they enjoy their rights, they must also be conscious of the duties they owe to their country, their society, and their fellow citizens. Rights and duties are two sides of the same coin. Point 2. Warning against anti-national activities. If someone burns the national flag, destroys public property, or promotes enmity between communities, the fundamental duties serve as a clear constitutional warning. They define what is anti-national and anti-social behavior in constitutional terms. Point 3. Source of inspiration. Fundamental duties serve as a source of inspiration for citizens. They promote a sense of discipline and commitment. They create a feeling that citizens are not mere spectators, but active participants in building the nation. Point 4. Courts use them to validate laws. The 1992 Supreme Court ruling is landmark. If a law seeks to give effect to a fundamental duty, courts can treat it as reasonable under Articles 14 and 19 and thus save it from being declared unconstitutional. This is a very powerful indirect role. Point 5. Parliament can legislate. Parliament has already enacted laws that enforce fundamental duties, like the Prevention of Insults to National Honour Act, 1971. So they are not completely toothless. Point 6. Indira Gandhi's justification. Indira Gandhi, while justifying the inclusion of fundamental duties, stated that their moral value would be not to smoother rights but to establish a democratic balance by making the people conscious of their duties equally as they are conscious of their rights. A truly profound constitutional philosophy. Verma Committee and implementing laws. In 1999, the Verma Committee on Fundamental Duties of Citizens was formed. Its job was to identify existing legal provisions that already implement the fundamental duties. And the findings were remarkable. India already had a framework of laws that gave teeth to these constitutional duties. Let us go through each one. 1. Prevention of Insults to National Honour Act, 1971. This act prevents disrespect to the Constitution of India, the national flag, and the national anthem. It directly implements Fundamental Duty A. This is the most commonly tested connection in UPSC. 2. Criminal laws in force. The various criminal laws in force provide punishments for encouraging enmity between different sections of people on grounds of language, race, place of birth, religion, and so on. This implements Duty E. 3. Protection of Civil Rights Act, 1955. This act provides for punishments for offences related to caste and religion. Implements Duty E. 4. Indian Penal Code, IPC. The IPC declares that imputations and assertions prejudicial to national integration are punishable offences. Implements Duty C. 5. Unlawful Activities, Prevention, Act, 1967. This act provides for the declaration of a communal organization as an unlawful association. Implements Duty C and E. 6. Representation of People Act, 1951. This act provides for the disqualification of members of parliament or a state legislature for soliciting votes on the ground of religion or promoting enmity between different sections of people. Implements duty E. 7. Wildlife Protection Act, 1972. This act prohibits trade in rare and endangered species. Implements duty G. Protection of natural environment. 8. Forest Conservation Act, 1980. This act checks indiscriminate deforestation and diversion of forest land for non-forest purposes. Also implements duty G. So you see, Article 51 is not just symbolic. It has a whole ecosystem of laws behind it. FRs versus FDs versus DPSPs comparison. The most important comparison in this entire chapter, fundamental rights versus DPSPs versus fundamental duties. Fundamental rights, Part 3, Articles 12 to 35. These protect individual liberty. They are justiciable, courts enforce them. They are available to all persons, both citizens and foreigners. They are negative obligations, they prohibit the state from doing certain things. State shall not discriminate. State shall not deny freedom of speech. Directive Principles of State Policy, Part 4, Articles 36 to 51. These are directions to the state, the government. Non-justiciable. Positive obligations, they tell the state what it must do. State shall promote equal pay. State shall provide free legal aid. They apply to the government, not individual citizens. Fundamental Duties, Part IVA, Article 51A. These are the social responsibilities of citizens. Non-justiciable. Moral obligations. They apply only to citizens, not foreigners. They expect citizens to contribute to the nation actively. Fundamental rights is equal to individual freedom. DPSPs is equal to state duties. Fundamental duties is equal to citizens' social responsibilities. And the relationship between FRs and FDs is complementary. Part 3 Fundamental rights protect individual liberty while Part IVA fundamental duties impose moral obligations on citizens. Together they complete the picture. Think of it this way, FRs say state, do not oppress me. DPSPs say state, serve me. FDs say citizen, serve your nation. 3 voices, 1 constitutional harmony. Rapid revision. Chapter 9 is done. If not, rewind this video, go back to the slide you missed and revise again. This chapter gives 1 to 2 direct prelims questions in most years. In Mains GS 2, you can use fundamental duties as examples in answers on citizenship, democracy, and constitutional values. Know it thoroughly. And that is Chapter 9, Fundamental Duties, completely covered. Remember, the Constitution is not just a rule book. It is a contract between the citizen and the nation. You receive rights. You owe duties. One without the other is incomplete. Article 51 may be short, but it carries the weight of what it means to be a responsible Indian citizen. The full PDF notes for this chapter are available in the description below. Download them, revise from them the night before your exam. If this lecture helped you, please subscribe, hit the bell icon, and share it with your fellow UPSC aspirants. Every share helps one more student prepare better. Our next lecture is Chapter 10, The President of India. A very detailed and important chapter, do not miss it. Until then, keep studying, keep believing, and keep going. Jai Hind.